We have a saying here in Washington that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So the point of us getting there is to let the Congress and, in this case, the Department of Labor know who CEDIA is, know what integrators do, and know the importance that we bring to the economy so that they can shape policy that affects us and favorably impacts our businesses. I think once people try it and get involved in this, it's addictive. Like when you can sit down with a policymaker and see them understanding what you do and getting a new enlightenment, it is really an empowering kind of thing.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Flywheel Effect, where we're sponsored by Vital. Now, for those of you who have been listening, you know that Vital is your source, your place to go for true knowledge on how to improve your business and learn how to work on your business as opposed to in it, where we try to optimize your profitability, your operations, and so that you can enjoy what you do. So if you're looking to level up your business, contact us at Vital. So today, I am flying solo on the host. I don't have my typical co-host here, Matt Burnett, but we do have a great guest. We have Daryl Friedman, the CEO of CEDIA. How you doing, Daryl?
I'm good. I'm no substitute for Matt, but I'll do my best.
You're going to do great. This will be a good conversation. Now, CEDIA, for those of you that don't know, is the trade organization, the smart home professionals, those people that install technology in our homes. You know, typical home has over 100 connected devices now, and many of them require professional installation. Now, Daryl, I had you talking here today primarily around government affairs. Happy to be newly appointed chair of the Government Affairs Committee for CEDIA.
Congratulations. Yes. Well,
Thank you. Is it a congratulations or is that a warning? I don't know.
It's a congratulations. It's a great honor.
It's a great honor. I'm really looking forward to it, helping our industry move through all the regulatory issues that we have. But as part of that, we spent a few weeks ago, late March, on something we call Hill Day, where CEDIA goes to Washington to talk to Congress. Now, you've done this many times, Darren. I'll let you give a little background on why we do that and why it's important.
Every industry has to be on the Hill to make their case and state who they are. We have a saying in Washington, I work here in Washington, that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So the point of us getting there is to let the Congress and, in this case, the Department of Labor know who CEDIA is, know what integrators do, and know the importance that we bring to the economy so that they can shape policy that affects us and favorably impacts our businesses.
I think for a lot of integrators out there, when they hear of regulation, they just either glaze over or they say, hey, I don't need to worry about that, or we just keep our head down. Because I think traditionally on this low voltage side, which mostly is low voltage, we haven't been subject to permitting process or anything else. And people are afraid of getting too involved. But I think that's the wrong attitude. I think what I learned at Hill Day is there are so many different things that impact our businesses daily from either federal, state, or local level that we're sort of doing ourselves a disservice not to be advocates for our case.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think once people try it and get involved in this, it's addictive. Like when you can sit down with a policymaker and see them understanding what you do and getting a new enlightenment, it is really an empowering kind of thing. So I think people, once they try it, they love it. Now, if getting people involved in the first time, yeah, it does seem daunting. This goes back years before I came on. I've been with CEDIA a little over 4 years now, but for years before that, we have a 20-year employee named Daryl Friedman who has been doing a lot of our state work. And what many people don't know is that he has saved many businesses from going out of business. Basically, what happens in a lot of these jurisdictions, state and local, is electricians union or others will come in and say, you must be an electrician to run a voltage wire, an energy wire. And we believe that's not right. We believe that our integrators can do that without electrical license. And Darren's been doing the work for 20 years, state by state, jurisdiction, sometimes city by city, to make sure that people can understand that low voltage is different. You're not going to set a house on fire. You're not going to shock it. You're not going to kill anybody with low voltage. And that our integrators are perfectly qualified and trained to do this work. So that's been going on for many years. When I brought to CEDIA, when I joined it, is the federal approach, which is more the national policy in the U.S. for making sure the integrators can work and also thrive in the business environment.
And touching on Darren, I mean, he's a machine of going through those prospective bills and laws and making sure that we're represented in every state. I don't begrudge him a second for the amount of work that he does on doing that, because it's a hard job. I mean, he does it really well. But I also think that what that points to is many of our integrators are not involved at that level and don't understand what's going on. And I think that leaves an opening, as you said, for electricians and others to make a case, because they have very strong lobbying groups that include their members, very strong case to legislatures and city councils to say, hey, why low voltage wire should be electrical. And, hey, that politician has no reason not to believe them, right? Unless there's somebody there telling them differently. And I feel that right now, or historically, most of the integrators out there haven't been involved, but there's a place for them to start to help Darren make that case to legislative bodies.
And I think when they have been involved, most of our successes come by getting integrators involved at the state and local level. And now at the federal level, we'll talk more about how we're going to expand that next year. But when politicians only need to hear from 2 or 3 people in their district, if they're a council person or a state legislature, if they get 2 or 3 calls, they will say like, whoa. So they might say, like, oh yeah, this is a no-brainer. We need to regulate these low voltage people and put them under electoral licenses. They get 3, 4, 5 calls from CEDIA channel people to go, wait, okay, this is a bigger issue than I thought. We need to hold off on this. And that's what Darren has done in partnership with CEDIA members and other integrators in the communities that are being affected, and actually having them place calls, having them come to city council meetings, come to town halls by members of Congress. And through that method, Congress people will say, okay, we get it. We hear what this CI industry is all about. It's limited energy. It's not going to be a danger. You don't need an electrical license. And it's really saved people from being able to stay in business in certain states.
Yeah, and I think it's a very small commitment of time to have a tremendous impact on your business and your industry.
But even going to Washington, I mean, if you can't go to Washington, and we're going to invite the entire membership to come and join us next year.
That'd be
if
great.
You can't, we send out an email that same week saying like, hey, if you just put in your name and your business address, we will automatically tell you who your Congress people are, who your senators are. We will pre-populate a letter that you can edit and go, and that will get sent to them so that we add to our voices. So it literally can take a day of joining us in Washington, or it can take 30 seconds and sending this email that we made for you.
And you said, yeah, we're going to be inviting the entire membership. So try to get 400 or 500 members to Washington next year, which would be fantastic. But this has now been the 3rd year that CEDIA has gone to the Hill, right?
Yeah, it's our 3rd annual year. And the first year was very much about introducing ourselves. I mean, we've got these industries that have been around forever, certainly the electrical industry, but others in the design and build world, architects and designers, and all of those industries have lobbyists who are working this. So they haven't heard about the integrator until 3 years ago. We came up and said, like, we want to introduce ourselves and say, we're a huge part of the economy. And at the time, the Department of Labor had just put out their once a decade, I want to stress that, once a decade call for new occupation classifications. And so we were really on the Hill saying, hey, Congress people, we need you to support this effort. Tell the Department of Labor that you support us, because we want to have technology integrator as a standard occupation classification, which doesn't exist right now. And that means when, as far as the U.S. government concerns, anybody who's working out there who's listening as an integrator, the U.S. government considers you a telephone repairman, basically. I mean, you're under the classifications of telecom. So once every 10 years, they open this up. We got a coalition together of other associations, including the commercial folks, the security folks, and we petitioned the Department of Labor to establish this new code. And we'll know in 2028 if we were successful. But based on the meetings we had in March, I think I feel pretty good about it.
Now, I listen to that as an integrator. I'm like, how does that change my job? Why does it matter to me? I think we should probably go a little deeper on why that actually matters.
Yeah. Okay. So many ways, but let's start with just dollars and cents. Your insurance rates are probably higher than they need to be because of this sort of electrical world. If we had a standard occupational classification for technology integrator that's primarily dealing with low voltage, that would reduce your insurance costs. And that's like just dollars and cents. Secondly, every integrator, if you ask them what their biggest challenge is, what are they going to say? It's labor, right? It's like, I can't find enough technicians. So right now, if our industry doesn't even exist as a standard occupation in the United States government, we can't get apprenticeships resolved. No one knows that they can even join this field. So it makes our efforts to recruit young people much, much harder. And third is we want homeowners and designers and builders and others who interact with our trade to understand that this is a real industry. This is a profession. This is not something that most people wouldn't do their own plumbing in their house. And most people wouldn't do their own electrical work in their house. They should not do their own technology in their house. That's why we have professionals. So all of these things will help shape that perception of this being a profession. This is somebody you want to hire. If you're a designer, you want to look at them. If you're a homeowner, you want to hire a professional, not try and do it yourself. And all of this helps shape that narrative of the smart head profession is a real industry.
Yeah. I mean, I think raising our profile industry through this way is huge. And I think people realize that just having that line in a code can transform how the world looks at you as an industry. It's pretty dramatic. But I want to circle back onto that apprenticeship thing. I think I'm sure that most of our listeners don't understand really what that means from a dollars and cents perspective for them. Let's look at apprenticeships. Like, say we're an approved apprenticeship. What does that mean as far as how someone can hire a trained apprentice and maybe find some reimbursement there?
Yeah, there's a pathway. Once we get this apprenticeship established, there'll be a pathway now to get a young person who wants to go through this trade, to get some training, to potentially get even people as in high school level, to get them into a business to start learning the trade. It would be recognized, it would be part of their curriculum. There's sometimes financial incentives for the government, because I know there's a big push. Everyone sees what's happening now in the technical trades. There's a huge push in this country to kind of establish the technical trades as something that we should be encouraging people to go to. It's not like a second choice after college. This is a field to get into right now. It's like, it's AI proof, right? You make a lot of money. There's a lot of jobs available. So part of this apprenticeship program would be like encouraging that, potentially even having subsidies for labor, and ultimately establishing a path to come into a business, learn the trade, and then become hired as full-time employees. One of the things that we talked about on the Hill was a bill that we're trying to produce, which is the Veterans Act. It's called the Vet Act. It's basically a retraining program for people coming out of the military. And in that case, there'd be $10,000 grants to businesses hiring veterans in this energy sector, which includes our industry. So there's just so many ways that just having this sort of government imprimatur on our business will just help us get more talent into the business, save more money, get some subsidies. And look, other industries are doing it. So the money's there in the federal government. We all pay taxes. We should feel very at ease about accepting some of those grants.
Oh, for sure. Now, this year, there were about 50 people that attended from CEDIA.
It was a test case now. So we tried to scale up a little bit this year, and then next year, we really scale it up.
We started the day at the Department of Labor, which I'm going to get back to. But just from understanding what Hill Day means for people, CEDIA organized for this group of 50 people to go down. We had dinner and listened to, we had 2 members speak?
Yeah, one current member and one former member. Current member of Congress was Congresswoman Linda Sanchez from California, and she gave a state of what the Hill is like right now. And then we had a former member of Congress who can be a little freer to talk about how you go and lobby and how you talk to members of Congress and how you can be effective.
Yeah, you're actually interacting with the people who are running our government, and you get to see how it works and what their capabilities are. We then spent that day, had the meeting at the Department of Labor, but then we spent the afternoon in small groups going to congressional offices to meet with members, senators, or the important people on their staff. And we had to potentially cause an impact into how they decide whether or not they're going to support legislation. What I find incredible, Daryl, is you walk through this congressional office, right? And there's no sign up. There's a metal detector, but literally anybody in the public can walk through that door and then go knock on the door of the congressional office and have a conversation with somebody. We have a system that is open to input. That's, I think, really extraordinary.
Yeah, it kind of blows your mind, really, when you think about it. Like we're a global organization. So I have colleagues all around the world who are working for CEDIA members in other countries. And I'll say to them, like, could we replicate this in your country? I won't name country names, but I'll say, like, could we replicate this in your country? And they're like, absolutely not. Like, there's no way that you're going to walk into X establishment in some country and just talk to your representative. And I'm talking about democracies. It's just not that open. So here, now there is a step you miss, which is that CEDIA does spend like weeks trying to set these meetings up and actually get the appointments and stuff like that. They're not just walking in, but we're doing that work for you. But once we say, hey, we have a constituent, they live in your district or they live in your state if it's a senator, and they would like to come talk to you, we get that meeting and you sit down with that person. I love being with people who've come to the Hill for the first time. I always make sure that the group I lead has some first timers, because there's something magical about it when you realize what's happening. You're sitting down in the Capitol, in this congressional office, you look out the window, you see the Capitol dome, and you're sitting down with this policymaker and you're explaining your industry to them. And there's always this moment of, oh my God, am I really doing this? This is crazy. And the people come back many times and they get more comfortable with it. But that first year is so magical because you really can in this country affect change, and they do listen.
They do listen. And I mean, I think the common conception is it's completely separate and they keep themselves separate from the people. If you make a little effort to get in, you can actually get in and have that voice. And I think it's underappreciated in not just our industry, but our industry for sure. I think CEDIA doing these Hill days and getting people to the Congress, to the Hill to see how it actually works is awesome. And it gives you this sense of, hey, I actually can have this conversation and have some input on what happens in our country. It's wild. I mean, I think I'm like you, Daryl. Like, I think you're more of a junkie than I am, but I am too. Like, I'm into this. Like, I found time during that day we're on the Hill to sneak off for a half an hour and watch a congressional hearing.
That's right. I remember that.
Big, yeah. And it's like, I didn't care what it was. I just walked in that room to listen, and you hear congressmen badgering other people. And it's just, the room is incredibly grand, like 50-foot ceilings with wood and
portraits from 100 years ago of the chairman from that era. It's always a chairman from that era.
Yeah, it's like grandeur. But there's just normal people sitting in the audience listening to this thing. Anybody can walk in. And honestly, this doesn't just apply at federal. This is the same thing in the states. You can walk into any state legislature and have conversations with staff or with the legislature himself if they're in the office that day. Legislatures aren't every day in states. It's awesome.
Yeah. And it really does make an impact too. People don't realize it, but there can be, like, I've had so many situations. I've been doing this even in my previous industry. So I've been doing this about 25 years. And there have been situations where we'll have 5 people call an office and say, hey, this is really important to me. I'm a constituent. This is really important. And then I'll hear that member of Congress giving a speech or on a congressional hearing later and say, like, my phone was blowing up and we have to address this issue and things like that. So really, like, a few voices can make a huge difference, especially in the vacuum of, like, not that many people are talking about our industry. So when you have a CEDIA member go talk about our industry, it has a huge impact.
Now, the flip side of this is a few people can have an impact. So if you're not making sure your voice is heard as any sort of group, you can be pretty sure that someone else has a voice that maybe not have your best interest in heart.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. They say that all the time. So when you're not here, your opposition is. So now CEDIA is fortunate. We don't have a lot of opposition to what we're trying to do. Disagreement about with electricians about what a CEDIA member can do, what wires they can touch. But for the most part, when we go to an office and we tell them what we do for people in their homes, they're either blown away, or if they are familiar with the technology, to say, like, oh yeah, I had that lighting in my house. It's been, life enhancing. It's changed our whole family life. So they do kind of love it. And I hope we'll talk at some point about the demonstration we did too for the technology. Yeah, that was a big piece of that day as well.
So before we get there, let's walk through the 3 bills that we're actually trying to advocate for on Hill Day. One you already mentioned, the $10,000 grants if you hire a veteran in a technical field. That one's dollars in the pocket of integrators if we can get it passed. And what were the other 2?
So one was called the Technical Training Awareness Program for Career Technical Education. So basically would direct the Department of Education to kind of steer people. Right now, a lot of people don't realize this is a pathway. The CTE, Career Technical Education, is a pathway. So it would direct the Department of Education to steer young people into this pathway and say, like, hey, in these technical fields, they should be given equal weight in terms of the awareness level to the other paths for a young person to take. And the third one, really interesting timing, was the Routers Act. So this is a bill that's actually passed the House already, and it directs a study to determine if we are having a security risk on certain routers in our homes that were made from countries that we consider a national security threat, like China. That bill passed the House. There's a bill in the Senate to get a companion bill, and if that bill passes in the Senate, signed by the president, it becomes law. This goes into effect. Literally one day, I think, before our FLIA day, the executive branch, which is the president, and agencies like the FCC issued a new ruling that essentially banned every on the market, because anything that had a foreign component, which is basically everything, would not be available. Now, anything that's currently in the shelves or anything in people's homes would continue to be, but new product would be part of this new covered list that would be exempt from purchase. So the timing was really great for that. CEDIA will be doing a lot. CEDIA put out some information on that already. We'll be doing more on that in the coming weeks. But I think the key here is that this is really good for integrators, because most of the threatened products are kind of the cheap products coming from China, the knockoff products. They're the DIY products.
Yep.
So it's actually good for we as integrators can serve a service not only to the homeowner, but to the country, because when you have a professional installing that network in your home, you're making sure that there's certain security protocols are in place. So this bill is not only good from a standpoint of national security, it's good for our industry.
That was the piece that resonated the most in the 3 senatorial offices I visited, was that we're not just smart home professionals, but we manage the cybersecurity and security gateways into the home. Like those are things that are top of mind of everybody. And by making sure that homes are secure, we're not obviously not their security guards, but to make sure that from a cyber perspective, they're secure, that data is secure, that our homes aren't being accessed with malintent, that we can provide some level of security. That was the piece that resonated the most for me in each one of those offices. I don't know if you got that same sense.
I think that was kind of the aha moment for them, because I think they think a lot of times our industry is thought of as like, we put up
TVs,
home theaters and TVs and things like that, but we're a central part of the home ecosystem. And this is going to be a key priority for CEDIA in terms of cybersecurity training, and our network security certification will be emphasizing this as well, because we are the first defense. If you're a member of Congress, you're home half the time, right? You're only in Washington certain days of the week. You're only in Washington certain months of the year. The rest of the time, where are you? In your home. What are you doing? Sending sensitive information to your staff in Washington, communicating via video conferencing. What if they don't have, and I use that example in our meetings, what if your home network is compromised and you're communicating to your staff in Washington sensitive information? But it's true for Fortune 500 company CEOs. It's true for anybody. It's true for your baby cam. I mean, we all want to make sure these things are secure, and CEDIA integrators are the ones who can make that happen. And now Congress understands we play that.
Anyways, if you're ever going to speak to your city council, your state legislature, or your federal representatives, bringing up that you are one of the ways to help secure that gateway of access of data back and forth into the home is the piece that gets them to pay attention, right? We're not like, as you said, if we're talking about slinging TVs and home theaters, that's a high class problem.
That's a nice to have. But this is a must have.
Nice to have. Cybersecurity in the home, that's as critical a thing as having a smoke alarm, right?
And they're getting it.
Yeah, they're getting it. We're going to roll back this day. How many correctional offices were visited in total?
So we had 5 groups each doing about 3 or 4 meetings, I would say 20.
It's a decent number, right? That can make a difference. I think next year with 400, if it's the same, we're going to be able to touch 50-ish, maybe more.
Oh, more, yeah. There's 435 districts. So my goal is to have 435.
And 50 states.
And 50 states, right. So yeah, there's 535 legislative offices. There are 2 senators and 1 from each district. So yeah, my goal is to touch every district, or at least every state next year.
That'd be tremendous. That would be fantastic. So we did that. That was a great afternoon. I think we had a real impact on teaching offices on what we do. But as you said, you want to bring up, we also did an incredible demonstration for what I think another half a dozen members came through to see this demo kit that we put together to explain what CEDIA professionals do.
Yeah, so we partnered with something called the Congressional Smart Cities Caucus, and we reached out to them late last year and said, smart cities, a lot of times we were focused on as major infrastructure, but the home is part of the smart city. And they said, oh my God, we missed this piece. We want to be involved with CEDIA and be involved with this event. So Representative Yvette Clarke from New York came to this event. She spoke, thanked the CEDIA community for what we do, and introduced this demonstration that was put together by a couple of our board members, Alex Capislatra and Amanda Wildman, who created this almost like a mini CEDIA expo booth with a control system, a speaker, a doorbell, a control touchpad, a lighting strip, and a blind. And essentially it was everything that you could have in a home on one sort of wall. But the theme of that was called AI Comes Home. Congress is very interested in AI right now. There's a hearing almost every month about some aspect of AI. But one area that they haven't touched on AI is the home. And that's probably where it hits people the most, because everyone has a residence and they bring these things in their home. So we wanted to show how AI can be used with control systems and control all these devices. So the members of Congress got to come watch the demonstration. I had the most fun watching the younger congressional staff come, because Alex would almost do like this improv thing. Tell me what you're going to do this weekend and what kind of music do you like? And so he'd get all these data points from these young people who were running the country, essentially, these 25-year-olds who were literally running the United States. And they'd say, oh yeah, I'm having a kind of a 70s theme party this weekend with some friends. And Alex would say, like, is the mood like energetic or chill? They'd say, oh, it's energetic. And like, what kind of lighting do you like? And so basically he'd tell In this case, the system was Josh. And he'd tell the control system, create a scene with this. And then they'd see the light, the shade, the control system, everything kind of worked to create this vibe for their party. And their minds were blown. They were, most of these kids are not well paid. They don't have fancy stuff in their homes, but they just love seeing that. And the other more serious thing was we brought a gun into the Capitol. Record scratch, right? No, we brought a picture of a gun into the Capitol, and we set up a scene where once the doorbell camera saw the picture of the gun, the light turned red, the blinds closed, the sound system created an alarm sound. So it also showed like the more serious side of this stuff. But the members of Congress and the staff who were there really loved it. And it was great for us to be able to not just talk about what we do, but show what we do.
Yeah, it was a great event. And I think people don't understand what we do necessarily unless they're lucky enough to live in a home that has it. But I also think as we grow, we're also touching, I don't know, down market's not the right word, but not as fancy as of a homes that this stuff still matters. And they got it. I mean, it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's fun. And I think they are saying that this is coming to mid-market. It'll be, everyone will have this technology eventually. So they want to learn, the members of Congress and the staff want to know what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So
for sure,
we know our technology right now, many times it's luxury, but we know it's coming to everyone, and the members of Congress are going to be ahead of that curve. So we help them get that educated.
All right, now we're kind of working back this day. So that was midday lunch break before we went to go to congressional offices. Then that first big chunk of the day, we spent at the Department of Labor, which I'm sure you feel the same way, Daryl, but the 4 people we met with who were fairly senior in the Department of Labor, from what I gather, were incredibly impressive. I mean, they were smart, articulate, thoughtful, and they refreshingly had a goal to achieve outcomes and get stuff done as opposed to just process rules. I thought it was great. I don't know whether it's this administration's pushing this or what it is, but they were right on the ball. And I think we actually put ourselves in a really good position. I'd love to hear more on what that was and why.
Well, part of the initial outreach to the Labor Department was because of this job classification issue. It's a very quiet process. You submit the document. We had a lot of support. We submitted our paper that said why technology integrators should be a standard occupation of the United States. You don't hear anything. And this is like, 2028 before we'll find out. So we didn't want to just wait and kind of sit and hope. So we wanted to get in front of them and ask the question. So we requested a meeting with the Department of Labor, and they came up with, what they did for us was amazing. I thought we'd have like one junior person. This was 4 senior DOL assistant secretaries, essentially, as you said, sitting down with our entire crew and going through all the issues that we wanted to cover, establishing this apprenticeship process, which the apprenticeship expert was right there. And Paul Dolans in our office, who's the vice president of education, he's now connected with her, and they're going to be working on how to get this apprenticeship done. And this job classification piece. So they had one of their chief economists there who's talking about how they developed that job classification and what we could do to make that happen, and maybe even some alternatives, some subcodes under the classification that we could make sure we had. So anyway, it was just a great way of lifting this fog from this whole issue. As we've been hearing, the Department of Labor has the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Not to get too wonky, but that's who normally handles this process. And we're hearing that was being shuffled around, and all the Doge stuff, people were being let go last year. And so we just didn't know what was going on. So we just said, let's sit down and have a meeting with them. And they agreed. The other thing is when you have these people who are political appointees, they're only in this job for 3 more years. So they want to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And so that's like, as opposed to a 30-year career person who's like, okay, yeah, this is on my list. These people are like, okay, we've got a 4-year window here, 3 left. We want to get this done. So they were really effective individuals, and we followed up with them since.
Yeah, they were incredibly impressive. I was so pleasantly surprised on their interest. Now, look, whether things happened the way they should is a different story. But as far as what they indicated their process was, basically saying our goal is to effectuate these changes that we're discussing now because they make sense, regardless of what the process had been in the past. So let's make sure that we fast track things like the apprentice program, figuring out how to get the occupancy code for our industry, because they saw the value to the country, to our constituents, to their constituents, as opposed to just being, hey, we're going to do something, a favor for the grid. We see the benefit of what CEDIA does. Thank you for sharing it with us. And let's see if we can make this happen. That's what it sounded like to me, which I thought was spectacular.
Yeah, that was definitely my favorite part of the day. And it's something new for, like I said, for 25 years. I've never had a meeting at DOL, and it was a great part of that activation.
I'm feeling that there's going to be maybe not the entire membership, next year, but there's got to be another group going to see DOL again next year to make sure this thing gets done. And probably a couple of visits in the next 6 months too, right?
Now, we are going to talk about this at Expo this year. On the Friday of Expo at the Smart Stage, we're going to have a conversation about how to call it the March on Washington. Basically, how do we get hundreds of CEDIA people to come in? And I don't think you know it yet, Brent, but you're on that panel.
I got the email today.
So I'm glad we told you. But yeah, so we're going to really kind of get more people to understand what this process is and how they can be part of really not just another event, it's a movement and you want to be part of it. And when those bills pass or when that occupation code is established or that apprenticeship is set forth in law, if you were there lobbying on that, but it was in its
you feel ownership. You
feel so good. You feel like, man, I made a real difference here. So I hope we get hundreds of CEDIA members to come join us in DC in March of 2027.
I do too. Now, let's also say this, Daryl, is that you and CEDIA did a wonderful job of picking a date and time that we were going to be in DC.
We knew the weather like 6 months ago. Yeah, we knew the cherry blossom bloom.
So this is that bit. Like if you're a CEDIA member and you were thinking about coming, but you're on the fence, think about coming, maybe bring your wife or kids, because walking around DC with the cherry blossoms in full bloom, which happens the end of March and that time from every year, with the weather being warm but not hot and muggy yet, is the absolute best time to spend a moment in DC. And seeing the cherry blossoms in full bloom with the Capitol behind them in this picture of spectacular grandeur of building and history and everything else it's kind of like when you, oh man, I can't believe an American. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's incredible. And yeah, I think a couple of people stayed the weekend and brought their spouses or families in and I did the sightseeing thing and the cherry blossoms. But yeah, our timing was pretty good on that weather and cherry blossoms.
I actually think it was the peak day, right?
It was. You never know the peak day. You never know in advance. So we just got lucky, but I'll just say like we knew. And, because all the CEDIA control systems are so tied to the astronomical clock, that's how CEDIA knew that picked that day of March 27th.
Not that Fernwell's Almanac. This is like that atomic clock. It is a great opportunity for those who are going to come to meet your fellow friends and members from around the country. Like, I think we have a really great industry that's pretty collegial, right? And this is going to be CEOs of companies, senior representatives of very large companies, some great integrators and other service providers. It's a really high level group that attends.
Yeah.
It's great interaction.
Yeah. Really big companies, really high level people. And that's important to us. But again, we played integrators there, some mid-sized, some small companies, some large. We want everybody to do this next year. Really, as long as you're a constituent, you matter because you're the boss of that member of Congress. You hire them every 2 years or every 3 years or 6 years, and you can fire them. So they listen to you no matter what your title is. If you're an integrator, come and meet with your member of Congress and tell them what they need to do. And they will listen.
I think for those out there that don't really believe that, once you go through this process, which I've done a number of times, not just CEDIA, but just before, you actually can, and you feel good about it. Not enough people do this type of thing, even if it's with a small group from their hometown for a specific issue. Not enough people do it at the federal or state level. And I'd love to find a way to motivate more people to get involved at this level.
And frankly, I'll be a little self-serving here, but more people to join CEDIA because this work needs to be supported by the industry. And I think a lot of people will say to me, I'm not going to join CEDIA. I have so much business. Well, it's not just about that. It's about giving back. It's about supporting your industry, elevating your industry, and being part of these movements to advance the CI channel going forward. So I would encourage people to go to CEDIA.org and become part of this movement and really not just stay on the sidelines, but help advance this industry. Even if you're at the top of your game and you're a great, successful integrator, it's about giving back and making sure you're supporting these efforts to raise the water for all boats.
I think it's a great point, but I think it's even more than just giving back, Daryl. Like understanding that this place is one of the areas that CEDIA can have a dramatic impact on the industry as a whole by effectuating change or updates in legislation at every level of government. And the more integrators that are involved in supporting CEDIA in that by becoming members, the more likely we are to succeed in that mission, right? Like, and that's self-serving.
Yeah.
Numbers not just
matter.
Altruistic. It's self-serving as well. Mm-hmm. Like this is what CEDIA can do for you, but it can only do it if you join.
Right. And that's, numbers matter greatly in this world. Yeah, the more people that are part of it, the more effective we'll be. And ultimately it helps all of our businesses when the industry is recognized and supported by government. So CEDIA.org/join. Please join us.
Yeah, please join us. I think that as this next year as chair, it's a place that I want to focus is what are the ways that CEDIA can engage in different levels of government that can have direct impact. And I think supporting things like that apprenticeship program at the federal level, which there are similar programs at the state level as well, is where we can change and make financial dollar impact into the bottom line of our integrators and members.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to that challenge.
Well, we thank you for serving in that role. We know we're going to do great things for our efforts. So I appreciate Vital and Origin giving up some of your time for CEDIA.
It's a pleasure. I think they're happy to get rid of me every once in a while too.
Happy to have you.
Hey, Daryl, you shared how to join CEDIA. Do you want to share how, if someone wants to reach out to you or to CEDIA generally, where should they be able to find you?
I'm easy. You can email me at ceo@cedia.org. I answer all the emails. Of course, the website is cedia.org. And of course, the membership website, as I said, is cedia.org/join.
That's great. Any last thoughts before we close out this session, Daryl?
We'll have the date soon for March. We need to make sure that the Congress is in session. We're waiting to see some calendar settings, but please hold that last 2 weeks in March. Think about coming to Washington. Think about being part of this movement. I promise you, it will be an experience like you've never had, and you will not regret it. And when we get these things passed, these bills passed, this jobs established, you will feel really good that you were part of it and made that happen for our industry.
And if you have questions for me about any of this process, I'm always happy to answer as well. You can reach out to me through the podcast, Brent at Origin Acoustics or Brent at Grow with Vital. And if you'd enjoyed this episode, please give us a like, a share, a follow, give us a 5-star review. That's really the best. And share it with your friends. Like if this is meaningful and you think you'll be a meaningful impact, share this podcast with your friends or other people that are in the industry. And let's see if we can build this movement. I think that we have a lot of work to do and I think we can accomplish a lot. Great. So until next time, thanks everybody. This is the Flywheel Effect. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Flywheel Effect. Our journey through the intricate world of luxury home services continues to be fueled by your passion for excellence and innovation. If you found value in our conversations today, don't forget to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. More insights and resources. Visit us online at growwithvital.com. Until next time.